Hello friends and welcome to today's episode of Booked. I'm your host Saffron Asteria and I'm joined today by Richard Gadz. How are you doing today?
Hello, not too bad. It's a nice day here in Bristol, so for once.
Yes, so I've heard. I am glad that you're finally getting some sunshine because I'm sure there must be some vitamin D deficiencies going on with all that rain.
Oh yeah, I mean just look at me.
You're glowing. What are you talking about? This is lighting. I don't go outside. I might live in Texas, but I do not look at the sun or go there.
Right, okay.
It's too hot. Even on those, like, I don't know, 18, 20 degree days, I'm talking Celsius, it's still boiling hot. It's like the air is cool, but the sun is like intensely bright and hot. It's weird. It's like it's got a little magnifying glass and it's attacking me and I hate it.
Oh. Well, I've never been to Texas, and you're making it sound like I don't want to go there.
I like the winter. It gets very cold. We got down to, I think, minus 12.
Gosh, that is cold.
It was great, though. Lots of blankets and duvets, and I didn't have to go outside.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but I don't really like going outside very much. I like nature and things like that, as long as the weather is correct for my body.
Yeah.
I get very sweaty.
There's a Goldilocks zone of weather.
There is.
Yeah, it can easily get too cold or too hot.
Oh, I agree. And like, I basically am fine to go outside as long as there aren't any people there. But I would be devastated if everybody disappeared. I want them there. I just don't want them near me.
Right. Okay. Who was it said hell is other people? I forget.
Right.
Well, was it Dorothy Parker? I can't remember. It's somebody like that anyway. But,
yeah.
Oh, well.
Anyway, well, welcome to the show. I've already said that I'm sweaty. So
nice.
It's going really well. I'm pleased with the direction we're going. So we first connected over your SSBA nomination last year. I believe it was through your nomination for that. And having a look at you looked at your website and all of your accolades. You've been nominated for a bunch of stuff. You've been a finalist for a bunch of stuff. You've been a winner for a bunch of stuff. How'd you do it?
Completely by accident. I assure you, it's not. I mean, I don't even put myself in for these things. It's done through my publisher. And I just get an email at some point that says, you're on the shortlist, and I think, oh, okay,
nice,
great. I thought I didn't even know I'd gone in for that, but there you go. So
that's a nice email to get.
It is a nice email to get. I mean, the first one I got, I didn't believe it. I thought it was a joke, and I deleted it. Honestly, and it was only when I got the email saying, "Will you be along for the presentation?" that I actually thought, perhaps they weren't joking at all.
Oh, that's fabulous. I love that. So, from looking into your background, and I didn't do like a full background check. I don't have access to that.
It's a bit MI5, isn't it?
It is, yeah. That's why I'm wearing a turtleneck. It's because I'm a spy. I'm not really. I love Google. Not sponsored, but you. It appears to me that you've been writing for much of your life.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in the industry the 30 odd years since I left university. Really, I worked for various book companies, book wholesalers mostly in the UK, and then when I got made redundant, it was the kick up the pants I needed, because I'd been published for a few years by then.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I don't, make a go of this, if I don't try and do this full time now, I never will. And that was 25, 26 years ago.
Wow.
So I've been sort of limping along ever since.
So what's that journey been like for you? Has it been a lot of self-starting? Have you gotten lucky with publishers? How's that worked?
It's a combination of things, really. I think I know because for about the first 20 years or so, I was writing children's books and educational books, which I sort of got sidetracked into, really, because Plan A was always to write, the sort of stuff I'm writing now. But I was unpublished at the time, and people kept saying to me, write for a 10-year-old, write for 10-year-olds. You've got the mind of a 10-year-old. So, and lo and behold, I tried it and I got accepted, and it sort of got me into 20 years of writing with children. In those days, we're talking about the mid 90s now. Publishers still took things off their slush piles. And I came off the slush pile at Walker Books in London. I remember going into an editorial meeting once. This would have been about 96. And we went through the edits for, I think it was my second or third book. And it was a Friday, and we came out of the editor's office as we'd finished. And everybody was gathering around, moving chairs, putting in a big circle with a big coffee table in the middle. And this coffee table was piled high with envelopes. And there was a giant cup of coffee, coffee jug. And my editor said to me, "Oh, well, look, you have to excuse me now. Can you see yourself out? Because we're starting our editorial meeting." And I said, "Oh, what's that?" And she said, "Well, that there is the slush pile. That's what we've got in a week. And we all sit around, everybody in the editorial department sits around, and we open up all of these envelopes, and we have a read through, blah, 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 and we divide them into no, and oh, possibly, and this is good. And we go through the whole pile, and none of us go home until everything's been looked at."
Wow.
And I just sort of went cold, because I thought, my God, I came off that pile, sort of 18 months ago, 2 years ago. Wow. And it really brought home to me, how lucky I'd been in getting in. In those days there was, there was self-publishing, but it was expensive, and it was vanity publishing, so the only way you could get published was to be accepted by a mainstream publisher. But I tootled along like that for a while. I didn't have an agent for quite a long time. And then I got one, then I was dumped, and then I got another one, and then I was dumped again. And then I'm a little bit cynical towards the whole agent thing now.
I understand.
You know what I mean? I've been dumped too many times. But then it's just, as I say, it's just sort of bubbled along, and I switched markets completely to do what I do now in about 2020, because I had a manuscript which I've been trying to sell literally for years. It had gone through about 7 complete rewrites, something like that. That was the beginning of this book, The Workshop in Filthy Creation. Now, originally, it started peculiarly as a time travel story.
Oh, really?
It's got nothing to do with time travel now. Now it's a twist on Frankenstein. It's kind of a sort of semi-sequel-ish kind of thing to Frankenstein. But I was writing it because I've been writing for writing the educational market for so long. I wrote it initially for kids.
Oh.
And it just didn't work. And I couldn't, and I gave this to my agent at the time, and she said, "This is awful. This will never sell."
I bet your confidence was sky high at that point.
Well, no, actually, one thing that you do come to appreciate is absolute honesty from editors and agents and things. If something is rubbish, they should say so. And I wish more agents and publishers would say to, prospective writers, this does not work, or, because that is valuable. It's really valuable, to people like me, because if you don't know that something's really off track, you'll never get it right. Do you know what I mean?
I suppose if your goal is to be commercially viable, you have to listen to the people that know what is commercially viable.
Yeah.
Then I suppose getting your hopes up and then just being dragged along for like 10 years.
Well, absolutely. The trouble is that a lot of the people that can tell you what is commercially viable won't tell you. I can guarantee you ask an agent or a publisher, especially from one of the larger companies, what do you want? What would be your ideal manuscript? Just tell me and I'll do it for you. And they can't tell you. They honestly don't know. It's because it's those sort of decisions are kind of made not on a whim. That's the wrong thing. But there's all kinds of things that influence it. Your manuscript has to hit not just the right desk, but at the right time.
Yeah.
And anyway, I was writing this book and rewriting it. It didn't work, and it didn't work. And it suddenly occurred to me, I'm writing this for the wrong market completely. This is a book for grown-ups.
Yeah.
I ought to grasp the nettle and do what I meant to do 20 odd years ago.
Yeah.
And write this for grown-ups. And I did, and I rewrote it, and suddenly it worked.
That's cool. And
it wasn't picked up immediately, but it found its niche. It got picked up by a truly brilliant agent. I have to say that. She pays me to say that. Who runs a small press called Deixis Press. And she basically said, yeah, I'll change nothing. I'll publish it as it is. It's fine. So I thought, phew, because I put so much work into this for so many years. I thought, I don't think I could go back and edit it again. I just couldn't. But yeah, and the rest is history, as they say.
That's very.
And
cool.
that's what flipped the market for me.
It looks like, and I might have gotten this wrong, but it looks like you've published with that particular press for all of your work.
All but the most recent, actually. My most recent is a collection of short stories. It's called "Thank You for Staring into the Void. Your Scream is Important to Us."
I love the name so much.
Oh, thank you. And I self-published this really because I'd sort of written these over quite a number of years, and I was just intending to collect them at some point.
Yeah.
And so I just said to Deixis Press, well, you can have this collection. And they were quite willing to publish it, as with the previous stuff. But of course, publishing being what it is, it works on a long schedule.
Yeah.
And I thought, I want to try these out on the market now. So I thought, well, I'll go the self-publishing route for that and see. And so it's still a bit of an experiment for me. But it seems to be working so far, and I might do the same with subsequent stuff. We'll just have to see. Not sure yet.
I love a short story collection, and I've started working my way through it. I've done it out of order because the last story of the collection, because I know you've also put some first chapters of some of your other works in the download from your website, which I thought was a very good idea. As a idea. I like that.
Can I just say though that if anybody wants to read that collection, at the moment on my website it's free. You can download the whole thing. It's in EPUB or Mobi or PDF. Normally I think it's $1.99 Amazon and $2.99 most other places, but just at the moment it's completely free. Excellent. So if you want it, grab it quick.
The link is down there. There's no excuse.
Yes, wherever it happens to be. Yes.
I think down there. I think that's how it works. Or maybe there. It could be anywhere. Somewhere around here.
On my screen, it's over here.
And also there. It's there too. There's a QR code. But I'm I'm scared I'm going to get the name wrong. Is it Skincrawler or
Skincrawler? Yeah.
Oh my God, it was disgusting. I loved it. I loved it. This has been my favorite one so far because it reminded me so much of one of the, I've said this in other shows, but one of my, I went through this really long period of time of not reading, which is sad, really, when I think about it, because I could have gotten through so many more books. But I started picking up reading again by reading no sleep stories on Reddit, which are, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're basically,
I've not seen them, no.
I love them. The way that this subreddit works is that you have to believe that the story is true, even though it's fiction. So the way that the stories are told of like somebody telling you something that actually happened to them in real life, and they're almost always like incredibly scary or disgusting. Some of them are like mild horror, but most of them are really gross. And this really reminded me of those stories that got me back into reading again. I really thoroughly enjoyed it because it was grotesque and just visceral, and I loved it.
Thank you very much.
I promise.
I disgusted somebody. Hooray!
You did. I'm so glad that I wasn't eating.
Well, I think it's funny because that particular story is I find it's a kind of touchstone, because if people read it and they say, "Oh, I really like that," I think you're one of my readers. If they've read it and they said, "Yeah, it's quite good," yeah, I know they've hated every word of it. So it's one of those. It's a very Marmite story.
I can totally get that. It's not for the faint of heart, I would say.
No.
But yeah, it's always nice to read something and think I felt something when I read that, whether it's disgust or horror or fear, or those are usually the ones I'm looking for, or my heart rate increasing and things like that. If I've had like an actual bodily reaction or emotional reaction to something, then I'm like, that is something I like. Definitely.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. Do you like to read things like that? I
do. I must say, I always think to myself that I'm not somebody who's very keen on a lot of blood and gore all over the page kind of thing. But actually, when I think about it, I probably am more than I admit. I mean, I don't deliberately go out to be gory or anything like that. I think there's only as much blood as the story needs. Like my Victorian books, for example. I mean, there is a certain amount of yuckiness in there, but it's not. It's at the sort of Hammer film level gore. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of. I always think if you like the old Hammer films, you'll like most of my stuff because it's that same kind of slightly gory, more creepy kind of atmosphere rather than blood splashed all over the walls kind of thing. Although peculiarly, a lot of the horror films that I like tend to be the very, very gory ones.
I thought it might be.
I don't know if you've seen it, but one of my favourites is, or two of my favourites, both came out in the same year in 1985, Reanimator and Return of the Living Dead.
No.
Have you seen either of those?
I haven't, but I'm trying to go and watch older horror films because the new ones are too scary.
Older horror films, you can tell you're young. 1985 is yesterday to me.
I said older. Older, not old. Older than me. So that's why I say older.
Okay.
But I appreciate practical effects. And that's something that I've been trying to seek out in films because we are edging toward things being less practical and but thankfully we are now celebrating more practical things, so hopefully we'll come full circle. But I've been trying to seek out things like that because they are believable enough to keep you in the story but not believable enough to give me nightmares, so that's how I like them.
Well, apparently in Reanimator there's not a single optical effect.
Really?
So I've read. I don't know, I'm not an expert on these things, but and you'd be surprised actually. You think, wow, they did that actually in camera. But There you go.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out because
yeah, it's very good. Very, very funny. Both of those are hysterically funny.
Okay, excellent. I struggle to sit through a film because I get bored really easily, so it has to like keep me entertained in some way. Obviously, I suppose that's the point. But I recently watched Young Frankenstein for the first time.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It was so funny. Good. I'd been put off of it because it was black and white, and I tend to stay away from black and white films. I don't know why. They make me very tired. I think maybe I need colourfulness to keep my attention. I don't know, but it was so fantastically funny. So I've noticed that in a lot of your work, the work for adults anyway, I haven't delved into your work for children very much.
No, I wouldn't. It's not as good.
Is it not for me? You do sort of concentrate on a lot of historical periods of time. Is there a particular reason for that? Is it a love of it? Do you find history quite fascinating? How did you come to do that?
I do love history. And I think the first 2 or 3 ones, there in the illustration, is there you've got Workshop of Filthy Creation, Eater of Flies, and House of All Sorrows. They kind of demanded that sort of Victorian setting, partly because of what I was doing in the story. As I say, Workshop is a twist on Frankenstein, and Eater of Flies is a twist on Dracula, and House of All Sorrows is a twist on Jekyll and Hyde. So they needed that sort of thing, unless you were going to modernize them. Yeah. And to be honest, I'm not sure how I would modernize them. Eater of Flies, for example, I wanted to do a vampire story because I'd sort of got bored of vampires. We all know how to kill a vampire, and vampires have become a bit cuddly, a bit safe. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I thought, well, I want to write a vampire story where the vampires are scary again.
Oh, cool.
So I thought, well, so you can't kill them with garlic or crucifixes or stakes through the heart or any of that. So I just sort of threw it all out and started again. And the vampires, again, it's all a bit Marmite. I think the vampires in Eater of Flies are kind of wraiths. There's sort of supernatural spirits almost that take on human hosts. And it's those human hosts that go around leaping out of shadows and drinking people's blood.
Oh, interesting.
That sort of thing. But I just wanted to do something different with it. Because, vampires are they've almost become kind of cliche.
They have really, yeah.
But, I wanted some vampires that were unpredictable. That's what I was aiming at, really.
Cool.
But yeah, I think I set everything in the past because I think that's where I'd rather live, to be quite honest. I don't understand the modern world at all. But it's also fun having historical settings because there's a lovely challenge in trying to make them real. There was my book, The Burn Street Haunting, is that's not Victorian. That's set in London in the 1970s. So, of course, the research for that, all I had to do was think back. But it was very interesting, actually, researching 1970s stuff as well, not just because it reminded me of a lot of stuff that I'd forgotten, but also there was sort of a lot of things that surprised me. And I thought, oh, well, that's, I must include that kind of thing. So that's a kind of crime stroke horror mashup. I always describe it as The Exorcist meets The Sweeney.
Oh,
so
sold,
right? but you see, even that, although that's a relatively modern historical period, it still needed an awful lot of. And I thought it was going to be easy researching, but it wasn't. I found I needed to read up on just as much stuff for that as I did for the Victorian books, oddly enough. And I'm just starting on something that's set in Paris in 1924.
Yeah, your Instagram.
And the amount of stuff it's only intended to be a novella, so it's not going to be all that long. But the mountain of books and research stuff I seem to have accumulated was not. But I always find that whatever period you set stuff in, the more you research it, the more fascinating it becomes. The more possibilities open up. Because I know people have said to me several times, don't you find it restrictive setting something, in the past, because you've kind of got to get it right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's the opposite. I find it quite liberating because it gives you a framework within which to work. And so, you're concentrating on the story and making sure that it fits in with the period that you're writing about. I find it really helpful actually to have as I say, that kind of historical framework to work around.
You and I are very different because I'm sure I've said this before, but I was like, right, I'm going to set a story in the 80s in California. And I got to a point where I was like, okay, what kinds of phones did they have? And I want to set it on a hiking trail. Where were the hiking trails before places were developed? And I got so bored with it that I was like, you know what? I'm going to make up a town and I'm going to make it whatever I like, but I'm going to have an 80s aesthetic because I just couldn't do it.
I know that the historical novelist Sarah Waters said something which I always live by, which is stick rigidly to historical fact until it interferes with the story.
Oh, I like
so that. It's not like, occasionally I'll have things in there that I know aren't strictly accurate, but they need to be there. Otherwise the story doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
In Workshop, for example, there are tanneries north of the Thames. In reality, all the tanneries were south of the Thames because the prevailing wind took the smell out of the city. You see, so they couldn't really be sited north of the Thames. But for practical purposes, I had to put one in the Whitechapel area. But anyway, so little things like that you sort of play fast and loose with. But I try to stick, as much as possible to the period as it was.
Well, it just has to be enough to immerse the reader in the universe. But unless there are going to be very few people that read your books that are going to have lived in the 1800s. They're not like that when I grew up, so it's probably fine.
I must say, researching this thing about Paris has actually helped me shape the story, because the more I discover about that particular period and all the sort of artistic community and the literary community that there was there at the time, I'm finding all these little resonances between what was actually going on and what I want to happen in the story, which is, I suppose, a happy coincidence, but I like to think it was brilliant pre-planning. But it's as I say, it's so useful because sometimes as long as you've got the basic story in your head, then the research doesn't become overwhelming. The research sort of helps, because the more I can build it in here, the better I can build it on the paper. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. So when you set off with your research, do you have a list of things in mind that you need to know, like what was the transportation like and what kind of food was there and such and such? How do you decide what is important for you to look up?
Well, I usually go from the ground up.
Okay.
The most important things I always find are like the little everyday details. Like if you have somebody reading a magazine, it has to be something that would have been read at that time. If they get on the bus can't be a diesel. Today it needs to be horse-drawn, and all these, all the little everyday things about life, what you might have for dinner. You know, how servants were treated at the time, and where the servants would have lived in a house, and all that kind of thing. I tried to make sure it's not heavy-handed, though.
Yeah, because
I know it's easy to kind of tip over into too much detail.
Yeah, and then just dumping information.
And sometimes when you're doing that, when you read it back to yourself, you can see it. You can read that I'm putting too much. You know, I'm putting too much of my knowledge about this into that. That scene or that setting or whatever, and so all of that bit comes out. You've got to have just enough to make it real and credible, but not so much that it drags on. You know, you don't want 10 pages of description of a house or something, because it's, you know, half a page fine, or 9 pages super, but you know, you kind of get a sixth sense for when to stop. You know?
So, having written in two sort of quite largely different areas, so for two different types of audiences, do you feel that writing initially for children has helped you develop your skills for writing for adults? Because there has to be like a completely different way of approaching things, surely, and presenting information.
It is, actually. I must admit that those 20 years in the education market were a very good training ground, because I was covering, or at the time, most of the work that came my way was sort of commission stuff. You know, a publisher would say, we want to do a series about XYZ.
Okay.
Or we're doing some non-fiction things about this topic, or whatever it is. So then I would need to write to a brief, and that's that I find now is a very good discipline for what I do now, because it makes me pre-plan correctly.
That makes sense.
And because I was writing, although you know, the children's market is sort of thought of as one market, it's actually very compartmentalized, because things that a 10-year-old would pick up happily, a 12-year-old probably wouldn't, and an 8-year-old wouldn't.
Good point. Yeah.
You know, you're almost writing to specific year groups. And the editors at the publishers are very good about attuning themselves to exactly the right market, the right tone of voice.
Oh, wow.
So by doing all of that, I learnt quite quickly to adjust tone and, you know, the overall emphasis of the text and this, that, and the other reasonably efficiently. So now when I come to do that sort of thing, it's not second nature, but I get this little editorial voice in my head. the voices. And I get this voice that sort of says, no, wait a minute, you know, make sure that your reader understands that, because X, Y, Z. You know, nothing annoys me when I'm reading a book more than something comes along and I think, hang on a minute, where did that come from? Who's this cat? It's got to be quick enough for you to skip along and not get bored, but it's also got to be clear. And so, you know, you don't want to sort of suddenly cut back to some particular character who you haven't seen for 100 pages. There's got to be that you've got to remind your audience who this is, but do it very subtly. Yeah. With a couple of words, you know, you know, so and so, the grave digger, or something like that, and it will flip you back to, oh yes, they were the one digging the grave 100 pages ago. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's little things like that. I mean, but writing for children has taught me, if nothing else, it's taught me clarity.
Incredibly useful, because you do get some really fluffy books that are full of like rambliness, and or you get ones that I like books that flip between different points of view, but it has to be clear to me that point of view is different. either by the voice that character has, or just like put it above where the chapter thing is, where the chapter number is, and then I know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm exactly the same. That's why I put things on, as you say, on little chapter headings. This is so and so, and this is their journal, or this is the, this is from somebody else's point of view, kind of.
Well, I appreciate that, because like if you think about watching a TV show, for example, you usually will understand perfectly what's going on because you can see it on the screen, and that will flip POVs constantly. It's very rare that you'll get a TV show or a movie that is like just one person's point of view the whole time, because otherwise you don't get richness of story. And I think it's important. I mean, especially if you've got, interesting background information going on. I'd rather see that happening than be told about it by a character. Sometimes you'll have just like telling you everything that's going on, and where writers will like subtly disguise info dumping as conversation. And I'm like, I'm not an idiot. I know what you're doing. You're phoning it in. And I need you to not do that, because because I do often think that with some of the books that I read, some writers write, and I don't think it's conscious, write assuming that the reader is stupid and that they're not going to understand what you're trying to get at. And I think sometimes it's okay to leave things said. So like assume that your readers are pretty clever and they can, get what you're trying to say, but then also don't be too like out there and hope that they're going to get it. It's a delicate line, but
it's interesting you say that, because I think that's the most difficult balancing act to do for any writer.
For sure, yeah. I
really do. I think that hits the nail right on the head. To me, that's the hardest thing. Anytime, is to strike that particular balance. It's not easy.
Yeah, I think it definitely helps if you keep going with it. Like keep writing, keep doing new things, exploring different genres, for example, can be incredibly helpful, because the way the information is presented to different types of readers is incredibly helpful to know. But yeah, I don't know. Do you come across people, your peers in the writing community, who will write like one book and they'll be like, that's the best thing that's ever existed and I'm not going to try anymore, that's it, that's done, it's out there? Because I see that happening a lot, and I'm like, no, keep going, don't stop, you can keep going with it, the momentum is happening and you're letting it stop.
Sometimes I mean, there is, it's the terrible second album problem, isn't it? It's and I was very nervous when I came to write Eater of Flies, because Workshop had been in the pipeline for so long. To suddenly turn out a second one in less than a year, I thought I must have done something wrong. It can't be very good, and it was only fortunately when it was out there, I thought, oh no, and the reviews were really good, for which I was really grateful. And I thought, oh well, no, then that's just me. I'm worrying for nothing.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes, I mean, in this job, I think sometimes you have to develop an ego the size of a cathedral, because you've always got, I nearly said Stockholm syndrome. That's not the right one, is it? Imposter syndrome. That's the one. Imposter syndrome. You always have that. Always. You ask anybody who's been writing for years and years and years, and you say, do you ever get imposter syndrome? All the time. And that never leaves you, ever. But on the other side, you've got to have the kind of pig-headed determination that says, the world needs my next book. You know what I mean? The publishing world and everything, it will say, well, the world doesn't need to hear from you again. If the world never read another word that you write, it would carry on perfectly happily.
Yeah.
Nothing would change. But there's the other side that says no. I want to say this. I must say this. You know, even if sort of two people read it, you know, there's got to be that kind of. I mean, that can just be blind, dunderheaded writing. It's, you know, it's the kind of writer that writes sort of the same book over and over and over again.
Yeah. You
know, with slight variations. That I thoroughly admire that, because I couldn't do that in a million years. I mean, like you say, I'd get really bored if I was, you know, just turning out the same stuff all the time. That's why I can't write series. I just can't do it. I'd get so bored.
Yeah.
I mean, those 3 books there, the Victorian ones, are a sort of series.
Yeah.
But they're not actually connected. They're just kind of stuck in the same universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think if I had to continue characters from certainly from one novel to another, no way. Couldn't do it. I wrote a lot of detective stories for kids, and there were what were there? There were 24 cases that my schoolboy detective tackled. Oh, wow. And by the end of that, I was so burnt out, and I said, "Can I just give this a rest for a little while? Because I just cannot think of any more plots."
Yeah.
Okay, we'll give it a rest for a while. And then when I came back to it, and I thought, they said, "No, market's moved on. We don't want them now." So those 24 stay as they are.
Oh goodness.
Forever.
Wow. So you said, you know, it doesn't matter if even 2 people read it. That's still good. That kind of brings me on to one of the questions that I always ask authors towards the end of a show, and you can have a second to think about it if you need to, but what does success look like to you as an author?
I think it's just having feedback. It doesn't have to be big feedback. It doesn't have to be glowing reviews or accolades or anything like that. It just has to even be 1 or 2 people that you speak to, and they said, "I like that because," you know, or "I get what you're doing with that." And there's that kind of connection. And I think to myself, well, that's all I'm looking for, really. I mean, obviously, nobody goes into this job to make money. You know, it's not a money thing. I think success is those little moments when you know that something that you've done has connected on that sort of level.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, the Burn Street Haunting, which I was very nervous about publishing because it's very odd and it's very personal. And I thought it might just fall between 2 stools. But I've had more people come up to me for one reason or another and say, "I read the Burn Street Haunting. I particularly liked such and such."
That's
nice. And that's the reward.
Yeah.
You know, for the next week, I'm I'm completely full of myself and completely insufferable. My poor wife.
So you should be.
Yeah, I think that's to me. That's what, you know, you do it for. You don't do it for the glory. You do it for because that's what I loved about reading. You know, growing up and everything. The thing that I love about reading is that it's not like films or
I disappeared. Hello, I'm back again.
It's not like films or art or music. You know, if you're in a group and you watch the same film, you're watching the same series of pictures. If you look at a work of art, you're looking at the same picture. You hear music and you hear the same notes. But when you read a book, those words are only half the complete thing. The rest of it is in your head.
Yeah.
And what forms in your head is not going to be the same thing that forms in anybody else's head, anywhere in the world. So, I mean, when I read Victorian fiction, for example, it's almost like you're hearing the thoughts of somebody, 150 years ago. And I think that's a really exciting thing.
Yeah.
I reread some Jane Austen not very long ago, and it just the the language and the vocabulary and the way the sentences are structured even, and it kind of it takes you back into it connects you to something that's sort of very distant, but also here and now. It's a bit odd, do you know what to get at? So I mean, that's what reading's always meant to me. It's like it's a very, very personal thing, and I think to answer your question in a very roundabout way, that's, to me, that means if I can instill that in somebody else, then that's the best there is to me.
Oh, that's nice. That was a nice answer. I like that.
Sorry,
oh, you've gone. No, you went away. Hello, are you back? Hello.
Oh, there we are again. Hello.
As ghosts in the system.
Oh, yes. I probably put them there.
That's okay. I forgive you. So, we had another person join us. I don't know who you are, but hello. Oh. If I did know who you were, I'm so sorry I've forgotten who you are.
Hello.
Here's a question. What do you think
about books of Fyodor Dostoevsky? Do you know I haven't read many? I read I got about halfway through Crime and Punishment. I got a bit bored. I'm sorry. It's because it's such a long book. If something's very long, it's got to really grip me.
Same.
So like you, it's shorter form stuff is often the thing. So yeah, to my shame, I'm not a Dostoevsky groupie, I'm afraid. Sorry.
Okay, it's all right. I'm sure that there are others.
To be honest, Dickens rather bores me.
Same.
It just go on at inordinate length. I find the Victorian novelists I really like are people like George Gissing, and Wilkie Collins, and people like that. The slightly lesser known ones. I don't quite understand why Dickens is as predominant even today as he is, really, because I think there are better Victorian novelists.
Maybe it's because his name's got a certain ring to it. Who knows?
I think it's self-perpetuating, isn't it? The more people sort of read Dickens, I suppose, the more he's the better he sells.
Maybe
he was a very good self-publicist. I'll give him that.
Yeah, he's done all right for himself.
He's done all right for himself. The lad's done all right, I think.
He's done all right. So the last question I ask people is if you could give yourself any advice when you first started writing. So this is you present day, going back to the very first time where you were like, I'm going to start writing stuff. If you could give yourself any writing advice, what would you give?
Gosh. There's a lot of sarky answers to that.
You can give a sarky answer.
But I think, to be honest, I think I would say have the courage of your convictions and write what you want to write. Because I know they say, write what you know. But fortunately, I don't know any vampires or mad scientists or people who cut bits off themselves. So it's not what you know, it's what's sort of in here. You know what I mean? It's write what you feel you have it in you to write. I think if I'd have heard that from myself more, I might have switched markets a lot earlier.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I must think about that at length.
My email address. But yeah, It's very easy to look back and be like, yeah, I do this differently and I do that differently. But then would you be where you are now?
Well, no, it all, in the sort of warp and weft of time, it all comes out in the wash, if you to mix a metaphor.
Yes.
And yeah, I don't think I would be the writer I am now if I hadn't gone through all the other stuff that I've gone through. I mean, obviously, you're only the product of your experience, and that's how you write, and that's what you write about in one form or another. But yeah, I mean, I'm pleased with the stuff that I've produced in the last few years in a way that I was never particularly happy with the stuff I did before.
Yeah.
This is more me.
That's
good. So yeah, it's that's interesting. I was because the more I think about that, the more I think, well, I could have done this and I could have done that, but actually, if I had, I wouldn't have ended up where I am. I wouldn't be here talking to you today.
I know, and that would be crime.
Yes, of course.
Oh dear. Well, have a noodle on that, and if you have any extra thoughts about it, please do reach out to me because I'd love to know.
I will.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate your time. It's been really nice to get to know you and get to know your work a bit better. And for those of you who watched the live, thank you so much for being here. If you're watching the recording, thank you so much for being here as well. If you want to look at Richard's work, there's a link down there and there's a link there. There's no excuse. They're there.
Thank you very much. That was really interesting. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Interesting. I've heard that from my doctors as well.
Oh yeah, wow. That's not a word you want to hear from somebody medical, is it?
No. Interesting. Thank you so much again, and I will see you on the other side. Goodbye, everybody.